Welcome back to the Nation here on One Nation Slow Pitch with Todd Sledge and Rick Burke, National Vice President of Slow Pitch Operations. And Rick, really what I want to talk about, we posted some very important dates for managers and players to understand what will happen throughout the season when it comes to roster moves and player changes and additions, because that's one of the key elements that the way that we've built One Nation Slow Pitch is a lot more flexibility, a lot more customer focus for players to be able to move around to different things. We are currently right now in the middle of our appeal season, which talk about that a little bit. May 1's the cutoff now for One Nation Slow Pitch player appeals.
Yeah, so just as you mentioned, when we looked at how our calendar flowed, we really wanted to make it easier for managers to manage their own rosters. Correct. Which we feel we have done a great job in accomplishing that, but also players. I mean, there are some guys that want to play every weekend,
right?
And in the past we've always locked down rosters and things like that. So one of the cool things is that we'll get into here in a minute is being able to get released up till a certain point. But yeah, right now we're in the midst of player appeals. They started in the wintertime. We take player appeals now all the way up and through May 1st. So individual player members can appeal the player menu that's on our website. Yep. Underneath that, there's a player appeal reclassification form. You fill that form out. There's no need to print it, no need to scan it, no need to send it to your state director. We've got all that routing and logic done behind the scenes. You just fill out the web form, hit the submit button, and it goes through. And we're right now, we have gotten a lot of appeals.
Yes, we have. Yes.
But we're turning those around in 7 to 10 days, and our commitment was 14 days. So we're doing better than our stated commitment, which is always making sure that you can overpromise and over-deliver is right. What we're trying to do here. Exactly. So we're excited about being able to give those appeals back to the players in a timely manner. Going through our review process, we don't have to get into how that all goes down, but we have a review process and we audit that process, and every step of the way there are checks and balances to make sure teams and players are where they're supposed to be classified. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Giving the power back to the players and the managers and being able to manage their own rosters is why we put this list of dates together.
Yep, exactly. And we'll get into some of that specific detail. I think will be very important for players to understand how they'll have the flexibility of moving around and how easy it is for managers. The season for some of these teams start playing events in January, February, March. They get into April and they start wanting to know about points. They want to know, how do we start getting seeded? Well, again, after May 1st, we'll start seeding these tournaments by points.
Yeah, so teams they can easily go to our website and go and look underneath the points structure, right, and how points are laid out. And we're going to have updated on our website what that points chase looks like. But teams are always asking, what is the purpose of points? What happens? Nobody gets anything out of points. Well, once we start May 1st, all of our events, unless somebody has some reason not to, like maybe the King of the Hill where right, you have an open bracket, all events after May 1st should be seeded by points. So the team with the highest amount of points should get the 1 seed and play the team with the lowest amount of points. So rewarding teams that not only continue to play One Nation, but have started early in the year and hit those Super Series NITs and got some of those increased points events. Teams that do well early in the year are going to get those benefits. But yeah, May 1st, we're going to seed all of our events by points. That's a neat thing that we've kind of done here loosely in Ohio, yep, over the years. Yep. But we're rolling this out nationally, and again, it's another change for the teams across the country that they should be excited about and want to continue to play One Nation events.
Absolutely. Well, another flexibility, you talk about One Nation and this expansion, focusing on the customer, the team, and players. Moving back the team appeal dates to June 1st, that's huge because now you have an extra month, if you will, to be able to see where you really fit within the class you've been playing softball in.
Yeah, so June 1st is a big date on our calendar overall.
Right.
As you can look in our rule book and see in the last page of our bylaws, the important dates. But June 1st, again, very important. So just as you alluded to, what we can do there is we move back that team appeal deadline. So teams that have struggled early in the year, maybe they're tried a higher class, they can appeal all the way up through that June 1st
right,
deadline.
Right.
But that also coincides with what we have is what we're calling our class lock and our roster lock deadline. So 2 things I want to really define for our customers and our player members. You can go out there and play with somebody else. Other organizations have guest players, ghost players, however they want to call it, people that can play that aren't on their roster. We don't want anything to do with that. We want the roster that is online at the time the event is going on to be the roster that you're competing against. Correct. As an opponent.
Correct.
So all the way up and through June 1st, so early in the season, you can, as a player member, you can move around from roster to roster, different weekends. It doesn't affect your class either, which is a nice, cool thing that we've also.
If you go from playing, if you're an E guy and you go to play on a C team for a weekend or two, it's not going to affect you.
Yeah, all the way up and through June 1st, you've kind of got this free reign to move around and
test the waters a little bit.
Yeah, so we've heard again from some team managers that are a little bit concerned with, how do I get guys back on my roster and that. Again, the team managers are in charge of their roster. They work through their state directors to have those moves made if they're having any struggles. But there's always going to be a preference for a guy that has moved on from a roster for a weekend and is trying to come back.
Yep.
Somebody's being difficult. That's where the state directors are going to be able to step in and really make sure things are done correctly. So again, June 1st is that deadline. If you're an E guy and you're playing on a D roster and you leave before June 1st, you're still an E player. But once you hit that June 1st deadline, you're now going to be considered D from that point forward, and really not even just the rest of the year, even going into the next season, unless there's a player appeal filed. So we give teams an opportunity to pick up a guy or two, try them out for a weekend. But sometimes you might have a gem, some hidden in the rough, an E guy who can maybe go ahead and play C for a weekend or two, open some eyes. But if it doesn't work out, we don't want to punish that guy either.
Right.
So
change his level.
Yeah, we're allowing those players to kind of move around. We're going to try it. We're going to give it a try. We've heard a lot of positive feedback about the June 1st deadline for players locking in on teams. And again, let's define what lock means. It's not as definitive as it sounds. Once June 1st rolls around, it just means that state directors now have to be involved with the roster move.
Correct.
So players can still get released. Players can still be added, but at that point, you can't go moving around like the weekend roster jumpers that we've had in the past and what we're going to do early in the season. So at that point, you've been able to move around. You played with the same team the whole time. At that point, you're going to be locked onto that roster, and the only way you're going to get off that roster at that point is through the state director.
Yep. Well, and one of the opportunities too, what we went to this is that I just had a gentleman ask me here recently. He's like, "Hey, I've got a C chip or a D chip that can't make one of my events." I said, "Go online, find an inventory of players, see who's available. It gives you that roster list. You can contact that person and say, hey, I know are you playing this weekend? No, I'm not playing this weekend. Would you want to come and play with us this weekend?" It gives those teams an opportunity, if they got a couple good players who maybe wouldn't normally compete on that weekend event, to take some of those players, still be able to compete and enjoy a softball experience.
Yeah, and all within our roster guidelines.
Absolutely.
You're not taking an A guy and going down and play D or C ball.
Correct.
So this is all within our roster guidelines, all of our bylaws. They're all still followed. So it's not like you're going to be playing against a team that's loaded up for a weekend.
Correct.
They're still all following our roster bylaw guidelines.
Absolutely. And quickly, real quick, what happens after the deadlines when we get into the postseason play and the number of ads and different things? Just to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so once we hit August 1st, there's a narrow window of about 5 weeks, that month of August essentially, where we are going to count the amount of moves that teams get. So teams are going to get 5 moves at that point, and they're going to be able to add or release guys. So a move is considered adding somebody.
Yep.
So you're going to be able to add or release 5 different guys. But we really do that so that we don't have these teams that fold and disband at that point. As we get towards the World Series and the national events, we want those teams to be the teams that have competed through states and through nationals, to be the same teams that are competing in the World Series, that have earned those points that you talked about earlier. So once we get to that point, we are going to count moves. So, but it's just, again, it's that 5-week window from August 1st all the way in through our first World Series completes at Berliner there at the beginning of September.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, thanks for all the dialogue and all the complexity that goes on with this. I don't know how you keep it straight, to be honest. But again, what we've developed with the player membership and what we've done with these summary of important dates, which is posted on our Facebook page, is to give those members of One Nation the opportunity to play as much and as often and have that flexibility within the One Nation Slow Pitch game to do so.
Yeah, and if anybody wants more information on these bylaws that we've just talked about, the summary of important dates, we have all the details all spelled out on our rulebook underneath our rulebook link on our One Nation website. So you can look at it, you can print it out, you can save that PDF to your phone, you can research the bylaw. We just kind of gave you a nice overview of what those dates and what the calendar looks like, but always go to our website for the latest information.
Yeah, again, and that's onenationslowpitch.com. where you find out all that information that Rick's talked about that's in our rule book and in our bylaws. Well, again, I'm very excited about what's happening with One Nation Slow Pitch. We're off to a great start. We've been on a great start. Players are signing up. Teams have been playing. We're just very excited to give you guys an opportunity, and gals, to join the nation.